Hi guys, it's Pete here again with another film review. Today I'm looking at Jason Bourne that was released a week and a bit ago, so I haven't got to see it for a while, but I got to see it last night, so I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on it. So quickly going into what I already think of the Bourne franchise, this is a franchise where the first three, I skipped the last one, Legacy, but the first three I consider to be some of the best action slash spy movies of all time. I really, really like all three of them. And it was the rare case where the third movie of the trilogy was actually my favourite. I mean, usually the third one's a bit worse, but the third Bourne movie, Bourne Ultimatum, I actually felt this was a franchise where each film actually got better. And Bourne Ultimatum for me is like an absolute masterpiece. I'd say it's one of the best action movies of all time, and I still pretty much stand by that. So, going into this Bourne film, of course, we had one without Matt Damon and didn't do very well. They went back to Paul Greengrass and got Matt Damon back, and I was super excited. It's one of the most anticipated movies of the year, so I went to go and see it, and I'm going to give you guys my view on it. So, I mean, obviously, it's difficult when you've got tough shoes to fill like Bourne Ultimatum, and I realised that partly, whether I wanted to or not, in my mind, I was going to sort of be comparing this, which is unfair because there was no realistic way that this was going to top that or even really match that, and so it doesn't, it doesn't, and I think that well, I did quite enjoy it. I don't really think I was hugely impressed with it. Like, I thought it was good. I thought it was a decent watch at the cinema. I was entertained for most of while I watched it. But for me, it just sort of, I don't know. There was a few scenes that were great, but there was something missing from it. Like the other Bourne movies, they all sort of built on the last one, and they had this really nice arc to them, which what made Ultimatum really good. I don't think Ultimatum as a standalone film, if you hadn't seen the other movies, would have had as much impact because it all led up to that point, and that's part of the reason why I love movie trilogies. Is each film can kind of build on the last movie, so you can get a film that actually has a lot of impact because you've built up to it over multiple films. Now, with this, it was sort of like it wasn't like a soft reset in a way because it was still acknowledged all the other three movies had happened. I like the way it started, where you got like a mishmash of everything that had happened in previous films. So it was good that it was showing all that stuff. It wasn't really a reboot, but it was a reboot in terms of he was on a sort of different mission now because his first mission was about him finding out himself and finding out why he was part of the program, and this is like he finds out more backstory and it's more to do with his personal life, but it sort of just felt oddly inconsequential compared to the other movie. And again, it's unfair to really directly compare it, as I said, but nevertheless, it's difficult when you've got the same team back and a very similar type movie because it was very similar in style to Ultimatum, and I think that's a problem. Again, is like if you don't want to invite comparisons, don't make it the exact same thing as Ultimatum, because to me it pretty much was. I think that maybe they should have changed it up a bit and made a slightly different type movie, because it just felt like at this point I've kind of seen it all before. There was nothing in this film that was really different. It was like you've got the CIA people trying to bring Bourne in. You've got got the shots with them. You've got some very good, well done action, but with the shaky cam and stuff, it's sometimes a little bit too much. But again, it was like, well, I have already seen all these things before in the other movies. There's a big car chase. There's a fight scene that's pretty cool at the end, but by and large, it's just the same stuff I'd already seen in other films. Like you can cherry pick from the other Bourne movies better things than were done in this. Like the car chase in Supremacy was better than the car chase here. The action in Ultimatum was much better. The fight in Ultimatum was better than the fight here. So as a continuation, it just feels kind of like more of the same. Now, just to watch it as a film in a theatre this year right now, it's still an entertaining movie. I still really, really dug it. Uh, but it just didn't grip me the way the old ones did, and I think it's maybe because all these years later, it isn't really bringing much new. It's just sort of recycling the same old stuff, and for some people that won't be a problem, and it's not a huge problem. I still, like I said, enjoyed it, but I was never like really immersed in it. And I don't know if it's in the 10 years between, because I remember at the time a lot of people had a problem with shaky cam on the original Bourne movies, and I actually didn't. I felt that for me, he actually used it in a really good way, and he was the only director I thought, and I still say he's the only director I really like using shaky cam. But with me, the action scenes in this, there was too much. Like there were certain times when the movie was giving me a headache, and while the action was good, it's like it was just overdone. I think the shaker cam in this, and again, maybe if I go back and watch old ones, I would feel differently now. But I really at the time didn't mind the shaker cam, and it might have been because it was a slightly newer thing back then, and it was a technique you weren't seeing every 5 minutes. Like it's oversaturated now; you see it all the time, and it just doesn't feel like it was that warranted. Particularly shooting at that frame rate, I think that the frame rate, if the frame rate had been higher, it wouldn't have blurred as much and it would have looked a lot better. I mean, I don't like high frame rate movies, but this is one where I was like, they should have shot it at a high frame rate, and I think that all the blurring and stuff that was going on when the camera's jumping about, you would have still been able to see what was happening in the frame, and it was just a blurry mess at places. I just couldn't tell what the flip was going on, and it did give me a bit of a headache. Um, so there are good things about it. Best thing about it is Matt Damon as Jason Bourne is excellent. Like he's still really, really good. He's still the same character. You still feel it's a good continuation for him. Uh, the sort of character story he had, I was really intrigued with, and I think that this plays into another little criticism is his story felt a little sidelined in the movie at a certain point. Like for me, the crux of the other Bourne movies was his character journey was always a central focus. Like there was other stuff going on and there's other plots going on, particularly in Supremacy. It brings in another story, but you're still very keenly aware that this is about Jason Bourne's uh, character journey. In each movie, it's very obvious that that's the main focus, and the other stuff sort of gets shunted to the side. With this, it almost felt like the opposite. Like the main story was something to do with like internet spying on people and privacy settings and people. And this idea, it's been, don't know what it is with screenwriters nowadays, but there's been 3 movies now that have been all about surveillance. Mission Impossible 5 was sort of a little bit about surveillance. It was more like Spectre, really. I suppose Spectre had the whole storyline where, they were trying to set up a thing to surveil everybody 24/7. And then this is kind of the same thing, and I'm like, it just doesn't make for good cinema. It's not interesting. Like, that's the problem with like internet-based stuff. Is it just doesn't work in a visual way that's very exciting. It's just like, oh well, someone somewhere's gonna. Yeah, it's bad. I agree that it's bad that like there's this thing being created. It's gonna, but everyone's gonna be surveilled all the time, and it's gonna do all this stuff. But it's just people sort of telling you that it's going to be bad, and we know it would be bad if that ever happened. But it doesn't feel like a real, genuine threat, like a nuclear bomb or the world ending in a literal way that would be immediately really, really devastating. This is kind of like, yeah, it's an okay-ish type threat, but I wish movies would stop kind of honing in on this thing and really making it a big deal, because really it's boring. Like this really spoilt the movie. This onus on, it felt a little bit at times like it was trying to be a bit preachy, and I think all the Bourne movies have tried to kind of. The thing that I do love about the Bourne movies is they're the only films where they paint the CIA and the government as the bad guys. Like, I don't know how they get away with it, because no other American film has ever done that. I mean, American films always have, like, the Russians, or it's always a foreign entity that's the villains in the movie. It's never, American people or a government or organisation. If it's a government organisation, it's some sort of evil, twisted thing. This is actually really good because the Bourne films always had Americans as main villains, and I'm like that. Americans, or like a government agency, as the main villains. It should be, because essentially these organisations are immoral. The CIA and stuff like that. They have no conscience whatsoever, and this is a really good film series that highlighted that, and it did still highlight that. I still like that was part of it, but this aspect of the privacy and this sort of new program sort of thing, where it would have been much better if it had been something to do with more along the lines of the original Bourne movies, where it was turning people into weapons, or it was weaponizing something, or just doing something more like, oh, that would be really bad. This just seemed kind of like a lukewarm threat that didn't really materialize to anything that interesting to watch on screen, and they devoted way too much time to it, and it felt like that was the main story, and Jason Bourne's story was sort of shunted to the back of it. Like, the cast are great. Like, the cast are brilliant. Tommy Lee Jones is excellent in it. Alicia Vikander is amazing as always. She's a really, really solid performer. Julia Stiles was good too. It was good to see her back as like the last remaining character. And Vincent Cassel as the actual agent who's on Bourne's case, who is like a rival from kind of thing, and it builds up his backstory quite well. He was excellent, and he's not always excellent. He's a bit hit and miss, but he was really good in that kind of role, and he really fits that kind of hardened assassin role, and he's still got that minimal approach to the dialogue with Bourne, where he says very, very little, and a lot of his acting is very physical, which I liked. He still feels like the same character, and it feels like the same world. It just feels like after what's come before, it's slightly inconsequential, and as such, I could only really give it like a 7.5, probably more like a 7 really, because to me it probably is a one watch film. I mean, it's the kind of movie that if I was going to get all the Bourne films and it was included in that set, yeah, I would probably get it and I would probably watch it. But I don't feel I would ever really buy this on Blu-ray by itself, unless it was really cheap or something, and I really got the urge to rewatch it. For me, it feels a little like Spectre in that it was good, but it wasn't great, and it could have been a heck of a lot better, to be honest. And it's a bit disappointing because I was kind of hoping this Bourne movie to kind of, take back the crown, as it were, of spy movies from Bond, because Spectre was okay, but it could have been better. And this, unfortunately, is kind of the same. It's okay. In fact, it's good, but it's just good for a Bourne movie is not what you want. You want a great movie. You expect a great movie from Bourne, especially when it's been so long away from this franchise. But I mean, each to their own. It's worth checking out. It's definitely an enjoyable, action movie for the time it takes you. And I wasn't like really bored with it. It was just at certain points where I was less engaged than I have been with any of the other Bond movies. Certain points where I was aware that I was just sat in a cinema watching a lot of shaky cam and stuff happening and not being really tied into those events. Now, there's certain scenes where I was really pulled into it, and that was all to do with the story of Jason Bourne. And it's like, if it really focused on like the others did, the whole movie would have been excellent. And that's why Ultimatum was excellent, because he was front and centre in that movie. And it was a very, very simple movie. It was essentially 3 action scenes but they were linked with such context to Bourne's character and to what was actually happening in the story. They were amazing action scenes, and it worked very, very well. And this was sort of the same kind of thing. It was, a few really good action scenes punctuated by other bits, but it just didn't pull it off anywhere near as well. So 7 out of 10 for Jason Bourne. A little bit disappointed, if I'm 100% honest. I still kind of enjoyed it. I still kind of liked it, and I still think it's worth a watch if you like the others. It's worth a watch if you just want to see a good action movie, especially with the quality of the movies that are out at the minute. It's good, but in all honesty, I think that it could have been a bit better, the writing wise, and just the sort of the way it integrated the other plots. And I think it was just the that idea of the using the internet to spy on people and stuff like that. It already feels kind of old hat and done. It feels like if this movie had been done maybe 5 years ago, it would have been a bit more like no one's done that story before. But it feels at the minute that it's just a bit passe and not very interesting. Like I say, cinematically to me, it doesn't make for a gripping story or anything like that. It's just it is what it is, and that's it. So that's my review for Bourne, Jason Bourne. Yeah, so I will be back with another review very soon. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye.